interesting topic to discuss. How would you compare Axel Sandin Pellikka's draft season and player profile to Adam Boqvist's draft season and player profile? Boqvist was an 8th overall pick, similar to Sandin Pellikka's projection, but so far hasn't been able to quite live up to his draft. Daniel, this is a great question because I think this is an important piece of the conversation about Axel Sandin Pellikka, who is one of the top 3 defensemen for this draft. And it's a question that is being asked in NHL offices, not just about Sandin or not just about Boqvist, but other guys. Ty Smith, is he going to be Quinn Hughes or Adam Boqvist? Don't forget, Quinn Hughes and Adam Boqvist were talked about a lot, and there were some people that had Boqvist over Quinn Hughes. Here's my initial take. I think Adam Boqvist was a little bit more of a dynamic player, dynamic skilled player, but he didn't have the production that Sandin Pellikka did this season. I think Sandin Pellikka is the smarter of the 2 players. But Boqvist had such silky skill, and he had a lot of plays. The compete level wasn't quite there, though, and I think the defensive abilities was also suspect. Undersized defenseman, which is to say basically under 6 foot, because Sandin Pellikka is about 5'10", 5'11". They have a lot to prove. And you watch the playoffs this year and you say, okay, well, look at the decors, and there's some big decors in there. Not many teams are led by a defenseman of that size. You've got the Rangers, Adam Fox, you've got Cale Makar, but Adam Fox is a genius level thinker of the game. Cale Makar is a high level thinker, but also an exceptional skater with tremendous skill. Those guys are hard to replicate, and I don't think Sandin Pellikka is in that conversation. The question about Boqvist, though, is very interesting because their paths are similar. They're not exactly the same, but they're similar. And, Boqvist played a little bit in the junior level in Sweden, played at the SHL level, and also played in the Allsvenskan, which is a second-tier pro. Sandin Pellikka played more pro games at the SHL level this year than Boqvist did in his draft season, and was a higher producer at the junior level than Boqvist was in his draft season. On top of that, Sandin Pellikka was a top defenseman for the Swedish U20 team at the World Junior Championship and had an exceptional U18 season as well with the Swedish national team and a great under-18 World Championship. So I think that Sandin Pellikka's profile is actually a little bit better than Boqvist was. Now, Boqvist was drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks. He ended up getting traded. He ended up getting traded to the Columbus Blue Jackets. And there he's kind of been stagnant, I suppose. He's still young. There's still time for him to potentially develop into a better defenseman. And a more productive defenseman as well. But I think NHL teams are going to have this discussion. Axel Sandin Pellikka is an exceptional young defenseman, but is he elite? Is he going to be a top-tier defenseman? Is he a guy you're going to play more than 18 minutes a game? And I think a lot of teams are trying to figure out if that's true. Sandin Pellikka is not a dynamic, skilled player. He's a crafty, smart player. His skating is good, but I think he defends well too. I personally think because this draft is so low and light on defensemen, whereas Boqvist was in the same draft as, Rasmus Dahlin and players of that nature, that, Sandin Pellikka's overall valuation for this draft is going to be a little bit different than Boqvist was at the same age. I still think Sandin Pellikka has a chance to be a top 15 pick. I don't think he'll be the first defenseman taken. And there's a chance he might not even be the second defenseman taken, because I think a lot of people are looking at Tom Wielander right now and saying, hey, maybe that's the guy. So this question is an interesting one because I think Boqvist is going to be one of those guys, what you look at as precedent and you say, yeah, we've got to take some time with this. We've got to make sure we're crossing all out. I do think now, with the benefit of hindsight, I liked Boqvist quite a bit in that draft season. But I think I might like Sandin Pellikka a bit more this year, though I'd say that the projection and the upside to me may not look as favorable. I think the risk factor with Boquist was high, but the reward factor was also pretty high because of how he had more of a dynamic element than Sandin Pellikka does. Really good question. Love those type